So today it's pretty gross and rainy outside, so we're gonna work on putting in my heater. It's actually already in, so really just making it function, actually getting fuel and getting it started and making sure it works well. And then number two, I'm going to finish my backsplash above my sink so I can put in the plywood underneath the countertop and lay the countertop on top. So it shouldn't be a lot, but that might be a lot for one day. So here goes nothing. All right, so here's the tiles. Just peel and stick. You take off the adhesive back and you just stick it to the wall. You do have to cut them, but they're cuttable with a utility knife, carpet blade. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll show you what it looks like now and the pieces I need to add to it. Here's the current backsplash. So I've done one row most of the way across, and I've done this whole section over here. So I need to cut pieces to go along the top here, and then I need to cut these bottom pieces because they don't fit exactly. If I did it again, I'd make this a little easier, but it is where it is. And then the last piece, I need to cut a hole for my wire to come through. So this is the new piece. It's going to go right here. The problem is you see the tile is a little too long. The good news is the very bottom of this is going to be covered by plywood, so you can see that little gap there. You don't have to worry about that because it's going to be covered up. So I'm just going to cut this quickly, not going to be as concerned about preciseness on this cut. So one of the tricky parts here is that you have to lay over the little edge of grout over top of the old edge of grout. So you don't end up with double the grout or any gaps or spacing. So you actually lay it on, I don't know if you can see that, you can actually lay it on top of the other grout, and then the lines line up exactly together. So when I go around, I push those corners right in and then stick them down so that you end up with a consistent look, not like a bigger gap in between them. So here's a tricky spot. I need this wire because it has my outlet ground fault protected, which is great because it's going to be above the sink, and it's going to go over here out of the way because the sink's going to be here. But that means I need to have a place for the wire to come through when I have the piece of backsplash on there. So I'm going to have to cut up this last piece of backsplash up through these two hexagons up to the middle and make a little hole for me to slide the cord up, and then also push it through right here. It's fine because it's going to be covered. Later on I will have just some kind of a little cord cover and a little box for the outlet. So I've measured up, and I think I need to cut it about 1/4 of the way into this hexagon, straight down the middle and through the bottom hexagon. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Luckily enough, I have an extra piece of this backsplash, and I can always purchase more if it doesn't work out as desired. So I'm also going to cut this across right here to try to allow some gap for the wire to get through. All right, let's see. Certainly adds another dynamic when you try to put this little cord through. The edges don't seem to line up just right anymore. Whew. So that was the easy part of the backsplash. I've got the main part of it. It looks like all the way across is pretty smooth. Now the tricky part is doing those little gaps on the top and then the little gap on the side. I can probably put some trim in to, if it doesn't turn out that well, just to cover up the connection points. And I might do trim anyway, just because I think it might look nicer. But I'm going to try to make it a really clean line, at least to the best that I can. Whew, here we go. All right, so now we're at the point where I need to fit this piece into the edge here. I'm going to have to cut it in half. I think I'm going to cut it down the diagonals to make the hexagon stay whole. And then I'll just have a tiny piece of a hexagon hanging over the edge into the tongue and groove light. So I think it looks weird, the overhang, because it's plasticky. It just looks a little strange. So I think I'm going to cut it off. Alright, now we're looking a lot better. Perfect. I will probably still put a piece of trim in there, but for now it's looking pretty good. So I've come up a little short. I need these pieces, which come off the ends of the main thing. So I can only get 2 per sheet, and I need 6.5, but I only have 5. So the trouble there is that I have about 1.5 sheets worth I need to make up for. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to space them out and fill the gaps with cutout pieces from the remaining sheet. The reason I can't use this middle portion for what I want is because the edges aren't quite as thick. The grout lines are not quite as thick as the grout lines are on the end, which makes for easy attachment. So I'm going to skip some, fill in the gaps with like single hexagons or pairs of hexagons, so it won't look as obvious that I had to fill some gaps. So close. Missed one little spot here, one little spot there. It's hard to tell that they're even there, but I'm going to fill those 2 little gaps. Otherwise, that backsplash is looking pretty good. Alright, filled that gap, filled the other gap. Can't even tell where the gaps are. That's a good looking backsplash right there. So, backsplash is done. Now all I need to do today is get my heater going, which means I need to get this hooked up and filled up and then test it out and make sure it's working fine. I just have to drill a little hole in the back here, make sure I get it in where I can get to it and the fuel doesn't all just sit in the bottom and I can't reach it, and then just attach power and test it out and make sure it works. So my heater lives under the back of the bench. That's where the heat actually comes out. It's covered in tape because I don't want to get any paint on it, but you can actually rotate it and spray heat whichever way you want. So here's my actual heater. The fuel tank will sit over here. Here's the on-off switch for the fuel. Following that line, you get to a fuel filter and the fuel pump, which pumps back into that, and it has a hole underneath that pulls air in and pushes exhaust out. Those are both heat protected with a lot of different things. And then the actual warmed up air from inside, it pulls the inside air and pushes it out into the van as hot air. So here's my fuel tank. It runs on diesel. What I have to do is I need to drill a hole in either this spot or the spot in the same spot underneath and poke the fuel outlet port through it. Then I will screw that down. I'll attach the fuel hose onto it, and then the pump will pull fuel out of it. I want to keep it at a little of an angle because if you keep it flat, this can only get, it leaves all this fuel in the bottom that the pump can't get to. But if I tilt it a little and put it in the bottom, then I get access to more fuel, but I don't get all of the fuel. So if there's any grimy grossness in the fuel settling down, it'll settle into the corner and not actually come into my heater. So I think I want to have it at a slight angle, but not too steep of an angle and not flat where I can't get all of the fuel. Perfect. So the next part's going to be really tricky. I'm not going to be able to film it, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like before and after. So before, we got this little hole, and I need to be able to stick this to come out of it from the inside. But the problem is that I can't reach my hand down in the tank. It's too skinny and it's got these holes in it. You can't actually reach it through. So what I'm going to use is a wire hanger. I'm going to slide this little guy onto the wire hanger, bend it to where it holds still, then push the wire hanger through to where I can get just the nozzle of this out the front, and I can tighten this screw down on it. That's the plan. We'll see if it works. All right, so that step was successful. Got the piece into the side of the tank. I'm going to put the hose onto the end, and then I'm going to crank the little clamp down so it doesn't go anywhere once it's on there. Alright, so we are attached there. This will sit just like this. It'll be strapped down, strap across this way, and a strap across this way. I don't know if I'll get those in today, but got that part. Then the fuel runs up, turn this on, runs through the fuel filter and the fuel pump into the diesel heater. So now I just need to attach the electricity. So the sun finally came out, kind of. It's still mostly cloudy, but now I can have the doors open because it's not raining. It's a lot brighter now. I got some diesel. I've hooked up the tank, and we're ready for a test. All right, here's the diesel tank. It's plugged up. I've got it switched to on. Ignore this wire. And it's going to be hooked all together. We've got the power clicked on. Last check is on and off button are lit up. Ready? Here we go. It's hard to see, but the fuel filter is starting to get full. That's a good sign. I'm starting to hear this thing crank up a little, like actually sound like an engine. So we're making progress. Now we're moving some air. Yeah, now we're moving some air. All right. So I brought a thermometer out to check how well the heater's working, and it looks like it's about 51 degrees, 50.9 degrees right now. And then we'll let the heater run for a few minutes and we'll check it again. All right, it's been running about 30 minutes. And we reached 70 degrees. All right. Well, that's today's video. Heater's in. Backsplash is complete. The heater needs a few adjustments, like the fuel tank needs to be positioned just right, and I need a seal around where the air intake is so I'm not getting any outside air or water or things like that. And in the backsplash, I just need to run a cord cover so I can put that outlet over top of the countertop, and it's ground fault protected and all that. But I've got to run that. So today was pretty good. Hopefully I'll get better weather and I can throw the solar panel, the other solar panel on top. And then I'm gonna sand and stain counters, and I'm going to put cabinet doors on and put the roof up. The roof's just waiting on the solar panels to get done, and so the cabinet doors are waiting on the roof. A few other painting things, and then a lot of finishing touches, just little detail work. to cover things up and make them look nice. So please like, subscribe, share. That would be awesome for me. And then just watch the videos. If you think I need to add more, you think I'm going through things too fast, if you think I need to do more time lapses, whatever the thing is that you think I'm doing not exactly right, please let me know. I just go with what I think is good, and I'd love to hear other people's opinions on that. So thanks again for watching.